day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this short summary recording covering the COVID-19 UIF specific benefits. So an easy aid guide was released for employers, and that was issued by the Department of Employment and Labour, and that's the source of the information. So let's work through the summary. The first benefit specifically being provided for is the natural disaster benefit. So if an employer decides as a result of COVID-19 to close its business for a period and send employees home, and this will be applicable to businesses closed during the lockdown period, it's deemed to be a temporary layoff. And if the employer cannot pay the employees for this period, the employer then needs to apply for the natural disaster benefit from the UIF. Very important to take note of the fact that the employer needs to apply. This benefit is delinked from the normal benefit structure of the UIF system, and therefore the normal rule that for every 4 days worked, an employee accumulates 1 credit day will not apply. But it's also important to take note of the fact that you cannot claim the natural disaster benefit and a normal UIF benefit simultaneously. The value of the benefit, ladies and gentlemen, is capped at $3,500, so equal to the minimum wage per employee. And the term of the benefit is the shorter of either the lockdown period or a maximum period of 3 months. If an employee is ill, temporarily laid off, or unemployed for longer than 3 months, then the normal UIF benefits will be applicable. So in order to qualify for this, various documents need to be submitted. Firstly, a UI19 and UIF 2.7 form must be completed by the employer. So let's have a look at what these look like. There's your UI19 form. So this is the information to be provided. Firstly, to identify the employer, and then the employee's details here at the bottom of the form, and the employer needs to sign it off. And the reason for the benefit would now be this national disaster that we're experiencing. Right. Then the UI 2.7 form also needs to be completed. So the UI 2.7 form, this is what it looks like. That's the remuneration received by the employee whilst still in employment. So this needs to be completed, the gross remuneration, the period, and then whilst on leave, signed off by the employer or an authorized agent. So that needs to be submitted by the employer. Secondly, I need a UI 2.1 to be completed. That's an application form. And a UI 2.8, that's a bank form to be completed by the bank. Now, under the circumstances, I think they'd be lenient regarding that in terms of getting maybe an online proof of banking detail from your online banking profile. That should suffice at this stage. Number 4, letter from the employer confirming that the company has been shut down or that the employees have been temporarily laid off due to COVID-19. And then lastly, a copy of the employee's ID document. So that's the first benefit provided for. The second benefit, reduced work time. So that's applicable when the company shuts down for a certain period or implements reduced work time process or schedule. Benefits payable would be the difference between what the employer is paying and what the normal UIF benefit would amount to should an employee lose employment. The documents to submit, again, UI19 and UIF 2.7 to be completed by the employer. A UI 2.1, which is your application form. A UI 2.8, that's the bank form to be completed by the bank. Then a letter from the employer confirming that there is reduced work time applicable, and a copy of the employee's ID document. Right, so that's the list of documents for the second benefit. The third benefit is an illness benefit being provided for, and that's when the employee is quarantined for 14 days. Now, what's interesting here is that normally for illness benefit, I need a doctor's letter. But now there's a confirmation letter that the employer and the employee needs to submit with the application form to prove that both the employer and the employee have agreed to 14 days of what constitutes special leave. So this now replaces the medical certificate, right? So even without prior medical practitioner confirmation or approval, you can now self-quarantine and qualify for the illness benefit. If the quarantine exceeds 14 days, then you need a medical certificate from a medical practitioner with a continuation form, and that's UI3. Right, so that's your third benefit. In terms of the documents to submit, again, UI19 and UI2.7 to be completed by the employer. UI 2.8, that's the bank form. UI 2.2, that's the medical report that's normally to be submitted. However, that is now replaced with the employer and the employee confirmation letters, right? And then a copy of the employee's ID documents. So let's have a look at what these confirmation letters look like. So here's the employer declaration. The employer's details declare that the company and the employee above have agreed to the employee must self-quarantine and not report for duties from this date to that date. And it is signed off. Right, so that's the employer declaration. All right, so this is the employee's declaration. The employee needs to provide information related to ID number, where the employee is employed, the UIF reference number, self-quarantine and not report for duty as a measure to curb the spread of coronavirus from this date to that date, and then signed off. Right, so that is what these declarations look like. They can be downloaded, completed, and then submitted. Right, so that's the third benefit being provided for, and the last benefit is a death benefit. So this is a benefit paid to a beneficiary of the deceased. Persons eligible to apply would be a spouse, a life partner, children, and nominated persons of the deceased. Documents UI19 and UI53 to be completed by the employer. UI 2.5 or 2.6, that's the deceased application. A death certificate, a bank form, UI 2.8, and then a copy of the employee and applicant's ID documents. So that's the fourth and final benefit. How do you apply for these benefits? Employer must complete the UI19 stating the start of the termination and the reason for the termination. The website that you can consult is labour.gov.za. You can submit it online on ufiling.co.za for an illness benefit. And in terms of any other benefit, illness, reduced work time, or death benefit, you can then send your application form and the supporting documents to the nearest UIF processing center. So we've got a list of contact details for these processing centers that there needs to be submitted directly to these processing centers. So let me show you what this list looks like. Alright, so here you'll see the list of processing centers with a specific mailbox that is dedicated and allocated to this, and also fax to email number. Right, so depending on the area that you're based in, you would use the contact details provided and you'd submit your application form and supporting documents. Right, now going back to the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoy this short summary that we've provided to you. We'll also be doing a whole session just on the UIF benefits and the implications between the employer and the employee, that relationship, how it impacts that relationship, and what you should be on the lookout for in practice in terms of the process to be followed. So please make sure to also join us for that webinar. If you can't join us, you're also welcome to have a listen to the recording afterwards.